Good morning. Happy Friday. The weeks are flying by. I don't know if anyone else is just chasing their tail, but there's something in the water at the moment. It's very, very busy. Today I am so excited to be chatting with Anya Devine. We had a little technical glitch, so I'm giving another little intro about how amazing her work is. We are so delighted whenever Anya's on our schedule because she brings such energy and excitement to the group of students that manage to sign up. And she brings so much movement into what she does, and you can see it in her work. It's incredibly expressive, and you can just the movement just translates onto the canvas. So I'm really excited to talk to Anya today about how that's evolved with her work and her practice. So I hope that we can get this chat going now, and I'll invite Anya in to for joining, and for those who've come back after the technical glitch. Let's see. We've had perfect practice ones.
Oh,
I
think it's working.
I think it's working. Hurrah. There we go. Perseverance.
Perseverance, yeah.
That's it. I feel like.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you and your lovely Cork accent perfectly. It's like all the practice ones we had. I feel like we've had this conversation 10 times already. But now we've finally made it to share this lovely story. So it's great. And I can see I can see everyone who dropped out, who were there for the little technical glitch at the start, coming back in. So it's great that everyone's obviously keen to hear about you and listening to this little chat. So we're delighted to I guess we've worked with you for a little bit over the years, and there's always great excitement, and I think because of the energy and that you bring, because of the movement and that you have in your work. How would you describe your work and what you do?
Hello everyone, and who's joined. Thanks very much for being here. It's really nice to be connecting with you, Lana, and everyone at the Schoolhouse are kind of connected with it. So how I describe my work, I suppose, is I'm glad that you mentioned energy and movement, because that's a big part of what I've kind of want to. Well, I suppose it's a big part of my experience of painting. I feel like I have to shake it off before I start, and get a bit kind of, I suppose, just to kind of move the energy, I suppose, something like that, rather than to come cold to it. And sometimes if sometimes that movement might be just kind of getting myself ready, getting the easel ready, moving around, going down onto the ground to put up my paint, kind of, it can be just like that, really. But like I was saying to you yesterday, for me, movement dissipates fear. And so especially if I'm giving a demonstration, I'll be really dancing a jig, I'll be trying to kind of, shake it up. But you were asking, how would I describe my work? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I guess I would say that sense of movement and energy is very important in my work, and I like to try and have broad sweeping statements coupled with considered mark making. So I love to kind of play with the balance of those two and kind of find the edge. So I stop. It's always a kind of a challenge, I think, to stop when the life is still in it, Yeah. And so sometimes maybe stopping like with food when you're 80% full, so to stop when I feel it's 80% done sometimes feels like a good idea. But who knows, in the artist way, Julie Cameron said, a painting never stops. A painting is never finished. It simply stops in interesting places.
Wow. So, I really like that.
Yeah, me too.
I think
so. It could be 5 minutes or an hour.
And it kind of leaves the spectator almost wanting a little bit more, or kind of wondering where the marks might have gone, which is a lovely, interesting thing to experience as the onlooker.
Yeah, I love that when someone else has left enough breathing space for you to kind of come in as well. You're so as the person witnessing the painting after, I suppose, although this isn't the intention doing it, but maybe that feeling of inspiration in me might live on if I let it alone and don't kind of kill
Yeah.
it in my own, to keep the liveliness all the way to the end. So there's space for the viewer to fill in some things maybe,
Yeah.
or bring themselves to
Yeah.
it. Like,
You have a lovely you've another lovely quote on your website that I've actually left open here in front of me because I think it's just such a lovely expression. So I'll read it out if you bear with me. But it's the one by Oscar Wilde where it says, "Every portrait that is painted with feeling is a portrait of the artist, not of the sitter. The sitter is merely the accident, the occasion. It is not he who is revealed by the painter. It is rather the painter who, on the coloured canvas, reveals himself." And I just think, and I can definitely correlate that with your work as well, because I can see your personality and your vibrancy on the canvas as well as the subject that you've painted. And I think it's a lovely skill to have as a painter, but it's also kind of leaves that vulnerability part as well, because I guess when you are an artist, you put yourself out there. Is that fair to say that,
yeah,
it's a
I'd say, now, that's interesting hearing that quote, because it was about 10 years ago I last looked at it when I first did the website, and I'd forgotten about it. Um, and I'm not, yeah, but I suppose, like, I think for me the thing is to try and come freshly and cleanly to the blank page, so that I'm not bringing anything that I can, I'm to try and be kind of open to whatever it is that's here, that I'm kind of fully curious about
Mhm,
what's there. And then I think you can't help but be present in the work
mhm,
too. Like, your signature mark making is what'll be there if you're willing to, I think if you're willing to really be curious from your own eyes, under
mm,
your own skin, to see
mm,
what is it here that's happening now, in
yeah,
this light, on this day, in this moment, and what's the next important thing to explain, what's the next thing to select,
yeah,
that'll really get the feeling I'm having. Like, I'm looking across at these flowers here, and they're irresistible, to try and capture that on a piece of paper.
yeah,
There's this earnest kind of searching, and I think that's what keeps me coming back to this, because it makes me look, it makes me be curious about aliveness, and this privilege of being here. Like,
and while Oscar Wilde said, about it's not a portrait of the sitter, I don't, like, not that I don't agree. Obviously, he's very wise, and I don't want to disagree with Oscar Wilde, but I do think you definitely capture the energy of the sitter. Like, there is something that they bring to the room, and
yeah.
that sort of emotional connection that you have with someone who's sitting there letting you paint them, I think is a
Mm.
really it's quite an honor to be able to do it, and and for them to let you paint them and try and capture them, um
Yeah.
as well as, yeah, I guess to be that it is them sitting there letting you capture them in all of whatever you want to take from it.
Yeah.
And then I know that your portraits are stunning, and they very much capture the sitters that
Oh,
you've
sometimes.
well,
Yeah.
okay, so then are there other times that that you feel
Well,
you're harder
I
on
don't know if I
stuff?
physically always get them, like, but I feel like there's something off, like you're saying about I love that the person is vulnerably, like sitting there willing to let themselves be
Hmm.
seen, and there's an alert kind of presence in a person who's, often I think if a person is sitting still, there's an alertness to it. It's not like you're just kind of,
Mm,
blankly there. There's definitely an exchange of some kind. Like, we don't really stop at the skin,
yeah,
there's a feeling of, especially when there's attention, I think the more potent the attention, the more fully we can kind of expound what's here,
yeah,
whether it is a person or a bunch of flowers or whatever. I don't know if expound is the word now, but that sounded very but express, I suppose.
yeah.
That there's a kind of a bigger, there's something in the general gestures that will kind of be more of this relationship with this sitter than
And I
another
think
painting.
you can see that with your movement almost, that you are obviously very maybe expungent is a word, but like that you absorb that energy from the sitter or from the subject, and it sort of comes through you onto the surface, that you do kind of bring all of that together. Is that something you've had since the minute you picked up a paintbrush or a pencil, or is it something that's kind of evolved over time?
I think like I feel like it's some sort of kind of alchemy that happens when we all pick up a brush and are willing to show up. Like there's some sort of thing that occurs, and I think maybe not only willing to show up, but with that kind of attention. I suppose I've noticed the more attentive I can be, the more satisfying an experience it is for me,
Mm-hmm.
and the more likely to I am to um create something that I'm surprised by on the paper. So, and I guess it's that little excitement in the belly that has kept me coming back to it. So I suppose that's been present for me all the time, um, and it's what I yearn for. I suppose that kind of newness, um, and so while it's not always there, evidence shows that it will come back, and that it will be present. So just to keep best I can tipping away at stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but I suppose there has always been enough of a richness in it to keep me doing it, like,
Mm.
you know, and from a young age I was encouraged and and had models. Like I've got three brothers and three sisters, so there was people around that I could paint and draw
And
and
was
look at.
so art was really appreciated in your home growing up, or was it a regular thing? Was it something that came up a lot at home?
Well, I suppose the thing that was appreciated and through my mum mostly, I guess, when I look back now, was creativity really. Like we weren't kind of appreciating the Mona Lisa,
Sure.
sitting around the piano
Yeah.
or anything as children. There was none of that. But but there was a sense of I mean, my mum, I say, she has an appreciation of beauty, and I remember, despite all the carry on with all the children, that there was a kind of an effort to make the home lovely, and kind of have a beautiful garden, and that appreciation of beauty, I think, is something that I'm very grateful for, and that has cultivated this, uh, you know, creative impulse, maybe
Mm.
myself. And my mum was my teacher, and she would have got us to paint. She would read from a storybook every day, and we would, like the Wind in the Willows, for example,
Oh, I love that
and then
story.
we would draw something from that chapter. And we were
Wow,
drawing the toad in jail holding onto the bars,
that's such a
you know.
lovely exercise to do. I might pick that up, do that with my kids.
Yeah,
That's lovely.
I didn't do it with mine, but
um,
yeah,
and because the word beauty is so it can put a lot of pressure on things as well, though. Do you see beauty
yeah.
beyond that sort of stereotype of it, or like do you find beauty in the small things? I feel like you do from looking at the work and how you've translated it.
Yeah,
It's not just that sort of, you find beauty in certain spaces that.
yeah, well, it's there, like it's there in attention. And I think I'm really glad you're kind of qualifying this because I first heard about beauty. I think it's the name of John O'Donoghue's book, Beauty, the Invisible Embrace. And in that, he compares glamour to beauty and how glamour has only ever got the single flash, whereas beauty endures. And beauty is something that
Oh,
exists within all of us. And he says everyone in their lifetime needs to hear the words, "You are beautiful," you know? And I just think that's the kind of beauty I'm talking about, that
yeah.
exists choicelessly within every single one of us and everything really, giving our, I think, and it was maybe Matt Haig, he wrote the book Reasons to Stay Alive.
Yes.
If you know me, I'm the whole time trying to find quotes for things.
It.
And he said, he said, our natural response to beauty is love. Like there's a kind of a pulse in the heart or something once you see something like a beautiful sky or, that feeling. I think it causes a reaction in my heart, like
Yeah.
um,
It almost
and I
takes your
feel
breath away, that expression.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah. our natural response is love, really, to beauty. And so I think this is the thing too, that nowadays that we need to, as creative people, if we're fortunate enough to be doing this kind of so-called work, that our responsibility, or maybe our duty, is to kind of those sound like very hard words, and it's not hard, but to kind of bring beauty, and particularly to let the beauty of nature be known, you know, or something, to kind of reveal it. I think a lot of artists are doing that now, making beautiful paintings of things like trees and maybe slightly abstract, but you know, all these different ways of honoring the world that we live on, you know, this earth, and ways of um, reminding us, waking us up to that
Yeah.
that privilege of being here, and to care for it then happens, you know, when we see something as inherently beautiful and worth preserving. That I think that's key, really.
That's so lovely. And I think as well, art lets us take that moment to pause and to appreciate it, and to then sort of consider the subject behind it, and I guess the passion and the care that the artist has put into translating that is a really lovely expression and transaction between the spectator and the artist. And then for that to have the longevity that it, you know, I know you showed me this beautiful the spray of tulips that you've done, and
Oh yeah, do you
obviously,
want to see them?
yeah, but
Or
that
sorry,
yes,
carry
no,
on.
we will but that you've captured those tulips, and they don't have, you know, a long lifespan, but they do now. You've captured it in that piece of work, that they'll,
All right.
you know,
Yeah.
that it's lovely that you've captured them at their sort of peak, and you've put it onto canvas, and we get to celebrate it when we see them, and it gives you that sort of that joy that you spoke about in your heart, or it takes your breath away when you get to experience that. So it's
Yeah.
lovely. Do you still work with no shoes on?
I do. I
Yeah.
do. That's one of the things. I suppose, like somebody else putting on their uniform, I take off my
Yeah.
shoes, and if I don't do it, I kind of think, oh, there's something wrong here. What is it? And then I think, oh yeah, I need, and I also have a drink of water. You know, there's a kind of a ritual, like in the setup,
Yeah.
that a bit of shaking it off, a bit of yeah, so I'll kick off the shoes, and I do feel that it helps me to feel a bit more grounded. And that
Yeah.
painting of the tulips yesterday was made mostly with my fingers. I mean, I don't know if you can really see tulips in there, but it felt like I wanted to get the feeling that I get of the sunlight coming through them. And
Wow.
so I think there's something about the tactile engaging with the work, whether it is barefoot or actually touching and, you know, pushing and pulling the paper, and
Yeah.
um
I see
yeah.
that with your work, that you it's almost like it lives through you. Like I've never, it's just, I can see how visceral it is for you,
That's a good
that, you know,
word.
yeah, well, good. That, because I can see it where you've, you know, it's all tactile, and you really almost become part of, it's all this sort of triangle of what's happening. You've got your subject, your surface, and you through the paintbrush and the paint. So it's almost watching a performance when when we've had you to the schoolhouse and we're watching you work. I know people just stand back and because a lot of the time people want to get up close and really spend a lot of time with the detail, and they get fixated on certain points. And I feel like movement helps you kind of move away from that sometimes, that
Yeah.
um but because there are obviously considered marks, and it's not just a sort of a haphazard throwing paint on the canvas type of experience, um that the movement happens first, and then as the considered marks are being put down, it all just comes together from the canvas. So it's lovely to watch you, even if you're not participating in making art yourself, but to watch you do what you do. Do you want to show us those tulips? I'd love to
I will
show
show
them.
you.
Yeah,
The
great. Are
thing
we in
about
your
the
studio at the
I'm
moment?
in the living room, which
Okay.
is pretty much my studio
Okay.
now. I do have a building in the garden, but I've been using the living room. I better watch when I turn you around what's at the other side, because there's areas which are, well, you know yourself, there's clutter. Okay. So
You know,
I'll show you.
it's the illusion of our tidy homes.
Yeah. What was I going to say to you there? The thing about that movement thing that you were talking about, though, I feel like it's almost like setting a scaffolding in place within which you can kind of build the person out. And like oftentimes those marks need to be adjusted as I go as well. Like, so it's not as though it's going to gospel the first
Okay.
time. But anyway, so I'll turn you around and let you see what's happening here in the living room. I'm doing a flower painting workshop next week here, so there's a fair few images of flowers. Actually, where did I put it? Oh yeah, there it is. So these are I'll maybe show you the actual thing so you can see the inspiration behind this chaos of pink and green. They're the tulips there.
It's gone a little bit dark, I think, because the light.
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
Here they are, and that's the spray. I made it on the floor yesterday, like.
Just lovely.
So it's got ink and different things on it. I mean, there's not really a shape of a tulip there, but it was the kind of feeling of the sunlight dappled on the flowers that got me. And there's some alcohol ink and things in the mix, and a little bit of collage there. And I put on afterward. I put on some gold somewhere as well, I think. Anyway,
I can see it there.
So that's the tumble of leaves and things, and then the spray of tulips shooting up from it.
There's lots of hearts being sent on our chat by the people that are joined in for that, and we've had a message as well to tell you that you are beautiful, Anya.
Oh, for goodness sake, that must be my mum or something.
I think it's on the back of the conversation where we need to tell everyone they're beautiful. So I think we're letting you know that.
Well, that's lovely to hear. Thank you.
I hope we've not been flicked on. Oh yeah, sorry. Good. Am I back? Good. Okay, good. Yes, we're back. We're back. So so I guess so you have a workshop with us coming up, and I know the weekend is nearly full, but because you're here with us for 4 days in July, and you're going to cover the portraiture, so we'll have a sitter.
Yeah.
And how do you approach a sitter, and where you have a limited amount of time to capture them, as well as obviously having a room of people who want to learn from you? But how do you go about starting something like that?
Well, it's really exciting, like coming upon, and you always have wonderful sitters there at the Schoolhouse. There's always fantastic models who are really. Even the last time, I think it was Evan's first time modelling. Yeah. I think it was Evan, someone else, and he was incredible. Like the first day ever doing it, and he was. I think Neil gave him a little bit of a talking to at the start about some tips.
He would have been in for a little trial with Neil, who'd made sure he was up for the job.
Yeah,
that's good.
But so they've always been amazing, and I think my job really is to do my best to kind of focus. So all the stuff like taking the shoes off, making sure I'm hydrated, making sure I feel loose of limb and relaxed in myself, all of that. The purpose of that really is so that I can bring I can bring my energy to looking and really selecting what's important. Because in that moment, I don't want to be wasting time. No. I want to be selecting what it is that will make this person in this light happen on this day, in this next mark and the next mark. And so that's how I approach it, with curiosity and excitement and a feeling of gratitude that they're sitting there for me, and willing to be seen. And also there's something about having people there looking. I don't know what that's about, but it feels like there's more than looking happening, that there's a kind of a creative atmosphere that unfolds in that space that has a kind of a magic all its own. And it's to do as well, I think, with the Schoolhouse itself, the building and the materials being so lovely, the floorboards. And I know Neil is always scared I'm going to tear my foot on a nail or something, but I never have yet.
Oh, good.
And all these knots,
Yeah, if anyone hasn't been to the Schoolhouse before, that's because it's the original floor from when the building was put together in 1818. Well, maybe they're not. Maybe they were replaced, but feels like a long time. But the knots in the wood don't ever sink, but all the softer wood between it will. So it's really knobbly as you're walking along it. But it's just it is a lovely, I guess, just a a kudos to the footsteps that have gone before it.
Yeah.
It's lovely to still have that there. And do you approach are your first marks watercolor with the paintbrush?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Those, I usually would use the 2-inch paintbrush for the first few marks, like, and best I can, I try and gather myself in, and without, because the other thing is like seeking perfection and being precious. That's another thing that can kind of arrest everything and make you feel rigid. So I try to have the attitude of wanting to best I can explain what it is that I've seen, while at the same time throwing the mark away almost and moving on to the next one. So it's like it matters more than anything in the world if while it's happening, and then you forget about it once it's done and move on to the next mark, knowing that you can continually adjust as you go, you know.
So,
So yeah.
but then when you've made a mark and you've put that down on the surface and you move on to the next mark, there still is a synergy between the marks that you've made. They start to all come together. Do you then
Yeah,
kind of
that's
feel
the surprise, like.
it's a
Yeah,
surprise? It's the
you
talent,
just need
Tanya.
to, well, you kind of need to, like, I feel I need to just show up and best I can explain it, and then the woven texture of it comes into form somehow.
Okay.
It's a bit like, and I think, that's taking the heat off regularly, standing back regularly is important, and creating, a bit of space, and also not lingering over what's happened already, but really continually forward momentum, continually referring back to the face that I'm looking at here, the presence that's there. And then finding the color that'll make the mark, finding the brush that'll best describe the mark I've seen, seeking the consistency of paint that will make the mark again, that will make what I've seen, and then committing to the mark. So there's a build up, like, it's not as though I'm kind of thinking, oh, divine intervention, do a mark here now that'll work. Like, you have to kind of put some, I do feel like I and the person painting, whoever they are, brings their signature mark making to it, and has to consider, how long to spend over working up to the mark too. Sometimes you need to just do it before you've got everything right, because you want to keep the clarity of what you've seen.
Yeah.
So it's
And
exciting,
yeah,
It's really
do you
exciting.
find that you're energized then after a painting session, or are you exhausted, or is it a bit of both?
Well, kind of exhilarated exhaustion, I
Okay.
suppose. I feel like there's a very satisfying, but I generally do, like, even talking about it, I feel quite invigorated. It's it is energizing, I think,
Yeah.
generally. But the
Yeah.
body will need to rest.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of, like, it's important to recognize that it's a physical activity, and there is energy moving, and I suppose it does mean that you have to have a chilled evening, like feet up,
Yeah.
glass of Guinness, whatever
Good.
it is.
Good. Because I do feel like even things you've said in the chat already, it's almost like um the the gym, or if you're passionate about movement or aerobics or yoga or going out for a walk with your dog, it's sort of a thing that you have to get out of your system. And while you might sit there thinking, oh, I don't really want to do it today, the minute you do and you get up and you do it, you're
Yeah,
like, and you'll never regret it.
yeah,
But it is
yeah,
that sort of showing up and having the intention um of making it happen.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And for me, the thing that I find really helpful actually is having, giving the demonstrations, and that, because it's not just me going for a walk, like, it's me showing up for other
Yes.
people. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes I would stay on the couch, the way, if I didn't have to do it for
Yeah.
someone else, I sometimes, like that, I completely forget. And also I think I'm more inclined to run away with the voices in my head that are critical if I don't have, it helps me having the crowd to speak to about what I'm doing, so that I don't end up getting lost, and drawn into my mind about, oh, you should have done that different there now, or this, and that's why I suppose it's important when I teach, that I pass on. That's really important to me, that I encourage people to kind of be your own cheerleader or something, like, tell yourself, oh yeah, that's good, that's fine, don't worry, it'll be
Yeah.
grand, that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah. So that's there now, but you can do that differently the next time, or don't worry, it's fine. Yeah, it's mostly that kind of talk that I think needs to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah,
And
because we can be our own worst critics. I know it came up yesterday when we were having a technical check-in, but we ended up having a lovely conversation. But that where we can be our own worst critics, and you kind of check with yourself and say, you wouldn't have said that to your best friend,
that's
So
great, yeah.
sitting
Yeah.
there and letting those thoughts come in, I think, especially anyone who's creating something knows only too well those critical voices that come in and make you doubt yourself.
Yeah. And how debilitating they can be.
Mm.
Because in actual fact, I believe that it's 99% confidence, really, this lark. Just the willingness to make your mark on the page. And it won't be the same as mine or anyone else's, but it'll be yours alone and only possible through you. Like,
Yeah.
so, and I think that the thing of having the confidence and the self-assuredness, I suppose, just to know that it's good enough, that whatever you do is only possible through you, and it's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And move
Mm-hmm.
on now to the next mark.
And do you find that do you find that you're good yourself with dealing with that critical voice, or do you need sometimes a friend to step in, or having a check-in with yourself?
Yeah, I think people are great. Like I've recognized recently how it is so important to have a laugh, with friends and stuff, just to kind of meet people and bring a bit of liveliness back into things
Mm-hmm.
if I am feeling a bit stuck,
Mm-hmm.
or and sometimes it's good too just to go out on my own. Like maybe I sometimes still go for a swim or something.
Yeah.
But it's because I have a tendency, I have had a tendency in the past at least to you know, sometimes I can really believe those kind of negative things in my head, and I just feel like that's why I keep teaching this. It's for myself really to hear it too. It's okay. It's good enough. You're doing a fine job. It's grand. Don't worry. All of that stuff is what I need to hear myself. But sometimes it's not myself that can say it. I need to get my friends to say it to me, yeah.
Yeah.
Or just have, as I say, just to hear it, to get out in the air, like, and have a brisk walk with the dog and a couple of friends. Yeah, that's good.
That is good. Well, we're looking forward to having lots of very encouraging participants in July, and we get you over more if we could. I know your workshops are always a massive success. As soon as you finished the one with us last summer, we had this one booked back in because there was such a demand. So we'll hopefully get you back more often, because people really want to spend time with you and work with you. So we're looking forward to hosting you. And yeah, I think yeah, you keep doing what you're doing. Your work is stunning, and I know we all really appreciate it.
Thanks, Lana, and you keep doing what you're doing. And I know that everyone appreciates what you're doing as well. And it would be my pleasure to be over more often. Like, that would be lovely.
Great.
Yeah, all the very best with everything.
Great. Well, I'm delighted to have had the chat with you this morning, and thanks for sharing all of your insights and your experience, and just for sharing how you do what you do. I know there's lots of admiration for it. So thank you so much for your time. I hope you have, and the rest of your day is full of beauty.
Oh.
In all the right ways, and we will keep in touch, and we'll chat again soon. So thanks everyone as well then who joined in. I've seen lots of people sending lovely messages and sending hearts, and just really enjoyed the conversation this morning, and I'm sure they'll continue to enjoy it as we leave it on our Instagram page. They'll come back. So there are some spaces for your workshops in July, but again, we'll have more opportunity to spend time with you in the coming months as well.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure this morning. Thanks for your insightful questions and for everyone's presence who's here. It's really, really lovely to chat with you.
Yeah, it's lovely having the opportunity to share, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's great.
And the sun is shining both there and here, I think.
Yeah.
We've got sunshine in the morning.
Yeah.
It's
good. It's very blustery, but I feel that energy. It is very it's kind of wild. Even my little puppy was annoyed with it today. Wasn't sure how he was feeling.
Oh,
there's something.
I see.
Yeah. Anyway, you go and enjoy your day, and thank you so much to everyone who joined us. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, Anya. I really appreciate your time and you and all that you do. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. All right.
Take care.
Take care. Bye
Bye.
bye. Bye everyone. Bye bye.